If you're brand new to lymphatic drainage, I'm going to give you the 6 things that you need to implement starting today, or at least be aware of, so that you get the best results physically possible. Now, if you haven't watched if you're brand new to lymphatic drainage, what you need to know, go watch it, because I talk about all things lymphatic and it really starts to make sense as to why our lymphatic system needs support and what could be going on and when I'm talking about certain terms. So go watch that video first. Now, what you need to know is when you're first starting off a lymphatic drainage routine or lifestyle, because it really is a lifestyle. It's something that I do every day, and I do things differently. I don't do the same thing over and over again. It depends on what's going on. It depends on what I'm dealing with. There's a lot of things that we can do to support our lymphatic drainage, but there's a few things that I always do. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. The first thing is you gotta learn the order, pressure, and direction. And I have videos on that, so go watch those. But some of the things that can help you with learning that is watching the individual videos that I've done for each location, or watching the video where I put it all together. I do all the specific 7 because that's really where you got to start. The specific 7 are the big lymph nodes that really influence drainage. And then the total 12 are the additional ones that some of us need more than others, just depending on what's going on. So go watch the individual videos, go watch the video where I put it all together. And then what you can do is, if you're like, gosh, these are great, but I forget them, I forget the order, I forget what to do. What you can do is you can go and purchase the posters. I have a lymphatic lymph node poster and a lymphatic vessel poster that shows you the order. And for the vessels, it actually shows you the direction that you're moving the lymphatic fluid so that you can print them out and have them in front of you while you're first learning to make it easier. So that would be the first thing. The second thing I'm going to highly recommend that you do is look at your hydration levels. If you are dehydrated, your lymphatic fluid is going to be thicker. It's going to ultimately become and make it easier for it to be more congested because it's thick. So instead of it being water and fluid-like, it might be more like molasses. And trying to move molasses, like getting it to move versus getting water to move, is very different. It's a lot harder. So checking your hydration levels is super duper important. Making sure that you are drinking adequate clean water. And unfortunately for most of us, tap water is not clean. It's full of all sorts of stuff. So using a filter, and the easiest filter out there honestly is probably a reverse osmosis. It removes everything, but then you have to remineralize. So some of the things that I would recommend when I was just drinking RO water would be to add quality salt, whether it's Celtic sea salt or Himalayan sea salt. You ultimately want unrefined salt because it has the minerals in there that we need in order to absorb the water. If we don't have appropriate minerals like magnesium, the water doesn't get absorbed into our cells, which means we're not hydrated. If you are somebody who you drink and you immediately have to go pee, or you're peeing every hour, you're not actually absorbing the water you're drinking. So add some salt and see if that helps. I can't tell you the number of people who are like, oh my gosh, when I started adding salt to my tongue before I drink my water, or to my water directly because I'm running around all day and it's in my, water, it makes a huge difference. So that's the second thing, is check your hydration and your mineralization in order to be hydrated at a cellular level. The third thing is take note of the clothing and of the accessories that you wear. Why am I saying this? Because if we are choosing to wear clothing that's tight, that's restrictive, that's going to be restricting lymphatic fluid from draining while we're wearing it, okay? Meaning if I choose to wear leggings, yoga wear that's tight and it leaves imprints, like the seam imprints on my body. When I take it off, I can see the seams, or I can see the pattern of the clothing that I was wearing. Or if I take my watch off and I can see the indent of my watch, it means that that's too tight and it's ultimately going to restrict the fluid from draining. So take note of what you're wearing. And then if you can, wear looser clothes more often, especially for somebody that has congested lymph to begin with. We don't need to be adding to it. Now, with that being said, there is a caveat. If you are wearing compression garments that have been properly fitted for you, that is different because those garments have been created to help move the lymph out, okay? But you got to make sure that you replace it regularly. If you're wearing the same garment 2 years later, it's not having the same effect. It's not going to be working as well. So make sure that 1, you get it fitted for you, and 2, you're replacing it so that it continues to be able to do its job. That is different than just wearing clothing that's too tight. Okay? The next thing, move your body more. Get up. We sit so much. We actually physically have to get up. When we sit at a computer, look at your body. You are constricting some of those major lymph nodes, like our shoulders come up, so we're constricting the termini. Our elbows are bent and our wrists are bent, so we're constricting the lymph nodes in our elbows and wrists. Our hips are bent, so we're restricting our groin. Our knees are bent, we're restricting our knee. Like, we're compressing those lymph nodes, which is preventing lymphatic drainage. So we got to get up. We have to move our body. And remember, lymph only moves if we are moving it. So one of the ways outside of lymph node stimulation or manual lymphatic massage using our hands or a dry brush or a gua sha tool or whatever is physical activity. Contracting those muscles is going to help get your heart rate up, and that heart rate getting up is going to cause the arteries to contract a little bit harder. And as the arteries, like the pulse in the arteries is contracting, the lymph lays next to the arteries, so that's going to help move the lymphatic fluid. So getting our heart rate up along with contracting those muscles, because remember, lymph sits on top of the muscles, the superficial lymph. So when we're contracting our muscles, we're also helping contract and move the lymphatic fluid. So move your body more. Don't be so stationary. Practice belly breathing. We got to practice diaphragmatic breathing. So many of us like suck in our tummies and we're doing this like you can see my shoulders are coming up versus when we breathe, our belly should be coming out. We don't want our bellies to come out. It doesn't look good. Whatever. Let's make it normal for all of us, women, for our bellies to come out when we breathe. We all have bellies. Let's breathe from our diaphragm, because what that's going to do is that is ultimately going to use the diaphragm and act as a pump. Our diaphragm is the pump for our lymphatic system. I know I say our lymph doesn't have a pump because it doesn't really, but the diaphragm would be the pump of our lymphatic system. So let's use it. That's going to help drain the lymphatic fluid from your belly button all the way down to your toes, because all of that fluid from the belly button down needs to come up into our thoracic duct, and the thoracic duct dives deep. It's like a longer spine and comes up and drains on into the left clavicle. So you gotta make sure that you're practicing that belly breathing, especially if you want that fluid from your belly button down to drain. So practice belly breathing, and belly breathing is ultimately gonna have another positive benefit because it's gonna help calm you down. It's going to help shift you into that parasympathetic state. It's gonna support vagal nerve stimulation. So belly breathing is so super important, and I recommend practicing it at least twice a day for 3 minutes, and you can work up to it. Ideally, nasal breathing. We don't want to be mouth breathers, because nasal breathing is going to help with nitric oxide, which is also going to help with the next thing that's really important, which is sleep, but it's going to help with our sleep cycles. So REM, deep, light sleep, it's going to help us shift through them. And remember, sleep is when our brain drains. So the next thing I need you to do is prioritize sleep. That whole I'll sleep when I'm dead thing doesn't cut it when it comes to lymphatic drainage. If you want your brain to function, you need to be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And women, we even need like 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours of sleep to function, just because of our hormones and how our bodies work. I know for me, I need 8 hours. I can function on 7. I can function on 6, but not very long, because my brain's not as sharp. And the reason my brain's not as sharp is because it's not draining all of the gunk that is built up in my brain. Because remember, lymph is toxic fluid. It's a waste fluid from our cells. And our brain is so metabolically active, it's creating lots of waste products. So if we're not getting quality sleep, it's not draining properly. So we gotta prioritize sleep. So if you want to know more about sleep, go watch the video I did on sleep on how to set a good sleep routine, because I give you, I think it's 8 simple things that you can start to do that can help support better sleep. So if you're new to this, these are the things that I want you to start with, and do it. Consistency is key. The more you do it, the easier it is, because it becomes a habit and it becomes a routine and you remember it. And the more consistent you are, the better results you're going to get. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, and happy draining.